Okay, let's come to attention now. We have a presentation about the last chapter of our textbook. Conclusion is the title. And then following that, I'll have some other things to say to you. But right now, we'll go ahead and we'll turn it over. Make sure this is on. That should work.
How do you work this?
This button goes forward.
Yeah.
This goes backwards. And then this is the red dot, if you need the red dot. Okay. Let's give our attention up here up front.
Well, first off, I apologize for that typo. It's supposed to say noting. Anyway, so a little recap about.
That's deep, like anything worth nothing. Wow. But noting that.
Anyway, a little recap of how we got here. So, of course, in 1871, Germany was unified after wars against Denmark and France. And in 1888 is when Kaiser Wilhelm II took the throne. And then from 1914, 1918 was World War I and basically the fall of the German Empire. And then after that, all the way up until 1933 was the, control of the Weimar Republic. And in that little time space, we also had Hitler's year in prison, which is when he wrote Mein Kampf. And I think that's also when he created the swastika symbol that he used for his party.
At a youth group party?
You could listen.
I'm sorry.
And then after 1933 was when the Third Reich took control of the Reichstag. And from 1939 to 1945 was World War II. And a couple years after that was when Germany was divided into the Federal Republic in the West and the Democratic Republic in the East. Which,
that's what they always call.
yeah, has anyone ever noticed how communist governments tend to refer to themselves as republics?
Democratic Republic of Korea. Or...
Yeah, People's Republic of China. And in 1989 was when the Berlin Wall fell in East Germany, and Germany began its reunification process. And in 1990, Germany was finally reunited. Now, considering the climate of post-Cold War Europe, Germany's reunification was pretty remarkable, as it was a peaceful reunification rather than, unification through war that they had, the last century, and considering a lot of the ex-communist countries were dissolving into constant war, like, Yugoslavia. It's pretty remarkable how they came together so fast. And as a result of this new unification, Germany is not a superpower anymore and is a lot smaller than the German Empire that it once was. And like many countries of the European Union, rights have been yielded to the European Commission, like the EU controlling Social Security and whatnot. Pretty globalist. Anyway, with the new political climate, Nazi symbolism is completely outlawed, which is understandable, although apparently I've heard cases of some movies and video games actually being banned in Germany because of this. And patriotism is either downplayed or straight up avoided for fear of nationalism. The only exception is, ironically, sports. Like, if you go to Germany during the World Playoffs with football, they all have German flags, and they have those vuvuzelas or whatever you call them, and those flower wreaths that are all the colors of the German flag.
Football.
Yeah, and that's weird. They now have an almost ludicrously liberal government. Homosexuality is now protected and commemorated with a monument in Berlin because of, their persecution during the Holocaust. Homeschooling is illegal, which I find that to be very odd because Hitler was the one who was very much against book learning because he basically didn't want independent thought. Homeschooling is based on independent thought, and the government essentially controls schooling there still in Europe, in Germany. So I find that to be very odd that they're trying to get away from Hitler, but they're kind of suppressing free thought in a way. But that's just my thought. And the church is much more distrusted now, mostly in the east side that was once communist, but that's kind of understandable. Although one arguably good factor is that Holocaust denial is completely illegal in Germany, which is understandable. You could say, yeah. Now on the surface, it seems like yeah, it's a good thing, but then it kind of raises the question: well, what if they still are Holocaust deniers? Are you saying that we can't bring them up in a straight up discussion to sort of prove why what they're saying is not true? So you get what I'm saying? Are they not allowed to be in an actual debate because people are starting to believe that it wasn't true? So can they not be brought up into a debate to show them why what they believe is not true? That's my only thought. And of course, Germany can't seem to stop apologizing for World War II, and they have this nice fancy memorial in Berlin.
Russia should apologize for the World War II and the Cold War.
Anyway, in terms of war, Germany's military is now called the Bundeswehr, or the Defense Force. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. And it really is a defense force. It's not really an actual full military, quote unquote. And constant budget cuts and downsizes have led it to become very weakened, and in a lot of cases, especially in the earlier part of the century, really unable to respond well to anti-terrorism. Case in point, the Munich Olympics, or wait, that was 1971, but close enough. And this kind of has caused it, at least in the early 2000s, to be the laughingstock of NATO. And it's actually funny. They pretty much get made fun of by the French army. The French army view the Germans as cowards, and they've had limited intervention in Iraq and Afghanistan, which is understandable, but it's hilarious how their rules of engagement in many cases do not allow them to defend themselves. This makes no dang sense. And so but the thing is, they are good soldiers. They do have elite groups that are trained very well. It's just the leadership that really raises questions of what are you doing? Anyway, so you might think, how does the present of Germany reflect the past? Well, it's not a direct reflection, but I thought it was sort of an interesting parallel. So, it wasn't long ago that Germany decided to open up its borders to Syrian refugees, right? And doing this, they were kind of suspending an EU protocol established in 1990 that was long been used as a legal basis for not letting in refugees. And from what I tried to find exact information on how many refugees are in Germany, but the closest I could find was about 360,000 2 years ago. But in the same year, it was also discovered that people who were not from Syria were using fake Syrian passports to try to get into Germany, which I found pretty interesting. And of course, crime was also committed by some refugees, but Chancellor Angela Merkel insisted that they were only isolated incidents. To Germany's credit, the police have been able to crack down pretty effectively on refugee crime. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the neo-Nazi groups who are very much angry about the refugee situation and are also committing violent crime. So that leads me to my final thought. I think that the current deal with refugees is sort of an indirect, sort of ironic reflection of Germany's past in the middle of the 20th century, because before they were extremely nationalistic, only wanted their pure-blood Aryan race, and now obviously they're open now. They don't really care about their pure-blood Aryan race anymore, but it's kind of weird. They kind of created what I would sort of refer to as a reverse Nazi effect, as in they're so eager to get away from their bad history that they're kind of creating problems for themselves. It's like they're almost having an extreme reaction to a very bad point of their history, and So they go from, I just think it's funny how Germany has essentially gone from being the demon, nightmare, hellspawn of Europe to the basket case of Europe. So that's why I think Germany now is sort of an ironic reflection of their past. And that's all I got. Thank you in the back for not listening. Oh yeah, I didn't think I was going to call you out on it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. That's good. A good overview of what we've been talking about and the situation as of today.